Safm, South Africa's news and information leader.
Thanks, Bongi. Texas explosion triggers huge mushroom cloud and violence in the CAR intensifies. That's in the news this hour. Good afternoon. The massive explosion caused by a blaze at a fertilizer plant in the small town of West in Texas has triggered a huge mushroom cloud, according to the local mayor. At least 70 people were killed and more than 100 injured in the blast. Dean Wilson from the Texas Department of Public Security describes a scene of devastation.
I walked through the blast area. I searched some houses earlier tonight. Massive, just like Iraq, just like the Murray building in Oklahoma City. So you can imagine what kind of damage we're looking at there. I know there was at least 75 to 50 to 75 houses damaged. There's an apartment complex that has about 50 units in it that was completely skeleton standing up.
The BBC's Peter Bowes reports.
A huge explosion lit up the sky around the small town of West, which is about 20 miles north of Waco. The sound of the explosion was recorded by a father and daughter who are some distance away, watching what started as a fire at the fertilizer plant.
Yeah. Molly, you okay?
Dad?
You okay?
I can't hear.
Come here.
I can't hear. Get out of here.
The blast triggered an intense fire and has injured scores of people. At least 100 are understood to have been taken to nearby hospitals, and several people are reported to have died.
Police say they are unable to confirm how many people died until they've completed a house-by-house search. Back home, former Fidentia boss J. Arthur Brown has been found guilty on 2 fraud charges totaling some 250 million rand in the Western Cape High Court. Brown initially faced 9 charges, including money laundering and theft, in a trial which has lasted more than 5 years. High Court Judge Anton Veldhuizen says there was not sufficient evidence to sustain convictions on the remaining 7 charges. Senior State Prosecutor Yanni van Vuren says they are satisfied with the outcome. The family of a 50-year-old Cape Town man who went missing at sea in Indonesia say they are relieved that he's been found alive. Brett Archibald was swept overboard during a storm while traveling to the Mentawai Islands yesterday afternoon. The National Sea Rescue Institute says Archibald spent 27 hours in the water. Family member Helen Planting says they just want him to come home.
The whole last 2 days have been like something out of a movie. It's just been something quite unbelievable, and I mean, we are absolutely overjoyed. My sister says she feels like she's won the lottery and all the golden ball tickets, and she hasn't even bought a ticket. She's just, it's the best day of her life that has followed the worst day of her life. There was not one moment of doubt in any of our minds that he would be found.
South African Weather Service says a cold front is expected to move in across the country tonight. Heavy rainfall is expected in parts of the Free State and Lesotho, while the Northern Cape and Western Cape may expect cold weather conditions. South African Weather Service's Puseletso Mufokeng.
Today the cold front is running through the central parts of the country. It will actually be to the eastern parts of the Free State through KwaZulu-Natal and also through the eastern parts of the northwest. And then it is associated with a band of cloud that is actually producing 60 to 80% chance of rain in general. There is also a likelihood of heavy rain to the eastern parts of the Eastern Cape. Otherwise, we can confirm that it is very cold over the Northern Cape as well as the Western Cape, more especially to the high ground.
To other parts of the continent, aid agencies say the violence in the Central African Republic is intensifying, claiming the lives of more children. UN agency UNICEF has again called on all armed groups to stop the violence as it prevents humanitarian aid for those in need. Rebel group Seleka seized power in a military coup last month. UNICEF says many children have been victims of stray bullets, others were recruited into armed groups, and there is an increase of sexual violence. The agency has called on the international community to urgently mobilize needed humanitarian funding and engage in conflict resolution. This comes as President Jacob Zuma and leaders of the Economic Community of Central African States meet today to hear feedback from the Seleka rebels. Recapping the top story, the massive explosion caused by a blaze at a fertilizer plant in the small town of West in Texas has triggered a huge mushroom cloud, according to the local mayor.